brought them up. The disparity in crack and cocaine, we changed the law. All those people in there who serve longer time than they would have under the law now, the president could commute their sentences. And one of the greatest threats to liberty has been the government taking people's liberty for things that people are in favor of. The Pew Research Group shows that 52% of Americans think marijuana should not be illegal. And yet there are people in jail, and your Justice Departments continue to put people in jail for sale and use, on occasion, of marijuana. That's something the American public has finally caught up with. It was a cultural lag, and it's been an injustice for 40 years in this country to take people's liberty for something that was similar to alcohol. You have continued what is allowing the Mexican cartels power, and the power to make money, ruin Mexico, hurt our country by having a prohibition in the late 20th and 21st century. We saw it in the country in the 20s. We remedied it. This is the time to remedy this prohibition. And I would hope you would do so.
Freedom's a big issue with me, and the opportunity to do things. And a lot of people, the cocaine and crack sentencing, we got made progress. But is the department saying that we're asking for sentences that are maybe on the lower range for those people that were indicted before the law changed?
What I've told our prosecutors is I've given them discretion so that they ask for sentences that are appropriate, looking at the facts of each individual case. The department is going to we're going to take a position with regard to whether or not the law should be made retroactive before the Sentencing Commission. But while we are still in that process, I've asked my prosecutors to make sure that we only ask for sentences that are appropriate and consistent with the facts.
Expungement is an issue I'm interested in too. Do you believe we should have, for like low-level crimes, whether misdemeanors, an expungement law on the federal level whereby after, say, 7 years, a first offender for a nonviolent offense could get the record expunged and maybe get a job?
I think that's certainly something that I'd want to work with the committee on and consider. It's certainly something we had here in Washington, D.C. when I was a judge for a really relatively small number of offenses, obviously nonviolent, so that the stigma that goes with a conviction, especially for younger people, might not harm their abilities to get meaningful employment, to otherwise make themselves productive members of society. And so the ability to have that as a tool in the federal system is certainly something I'm willing to consider.
And I am very concerned about racial and ethnic disparities that exist in the criminal justice system. And I was pleased to see that you have raised this issue in your testimony. As you noted, these disparities are eroding public confidence in the system, not to mention causing injustice, which is the most serious grievance. I was pleased that the department is convening a working group on sentencing policy, which I think will be very valuable. But I think it's much larger than simply sentencing. Disparities exist in law enforcement policies, in prosecutorial decisions, and other aspects of the criminal justice system as well. Shouldn't we be engaging in a full-scale review of the entire justice system and not simply the sentencing portion?
Well, I want to do that which I think is possible. My time as Attorney General is limited, and there are priorities I think that we have to set. That does not mean, however, that I don't agree with you, that we as a society have to focus, I think, on the larger questions that you raise to ensure that our criminal justice system, viewed in its entirety, is perceived as fair and actually is fair. I try to chop off those parts that I think we can get done during the time that I am Attorney General.
Possibly this committee could look at some of those other factors, and we could work hand in glove. And I hope that we can, and that won't be looked as a, render unto Caesar and et cetera, and we'll work together.
I would be glad to work with you on that.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney General.